Mr. President, I come here to the floor today to once again call attention to the ongoing conflict in Sudan. Our presiding officer knows about this conflict very well. It's one of the most tragic circumstances that we have anywhere in the world. The humanitarian crisis is beyond description. The ethnic cleansing and tragedies of two factions at war has made this a living hell for so many people in that region. And after more than a year of brutal violence, the two sides may come together soon to talk. We certainly hope that's the case. This is a critical first step to ending the fighting that erupted last year in a country that has seen decades of war. I want to acknowledge the Biden-Harris administration and Special Envoy Tom Perriello for their works in Sudan. It was not easy to get here, and I hope the effort to launch a dialogue this month is successful. But despite the best efforts of this administration, the violence and humanitarian crisis continues, and the international community is falling willfully short. While we wait for talks to begin, civilians on the ground are being killed, abused, and forced out of their homes. Nearly 11 million people have been displaced. Half the population, close to 26 million, face crisis levels of starvation. 750,000 people are on the brink of starvation. And according to one published report, 2.5 million more people will die because of the conditions related to the conflict and the use of food as a weapon of war. Credible rights organizations claim that genocide has once again occurred in Darfur. I remember Darfur, and we said never again. That's happening again in Darfur. But there are no clear U.S. or UN plans to ensure humanitarian access across borders or across military lines. Mr. President, as the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I come to the floor to say we need to take urgent action now. We need to work with our partners and allies to pressure the parties to agree to an immediate ceasefire, and for both sides to make it stick this time. To its credit, the Biden-Harris administration has imposed sanctions on a variety of actors, including at the senior levels of both warring parties. But our partners and allies have not followed suit. In fact, just this week, the Century released an analysis of the multilateral sanction regime and found that the European Union in particular has lagged behind in its implementation. It's past time to do more. It's time for our allies to prioritize these measures so we are speaking with one voice to the warring parties. We need also to work urgently with our African and European partners to devise concrete measures the international community can take to protect the civilians from a repeat of last year's mass atrocities. And we need to focus on the next phase, creating and protecting space for the Sudanese civilians to establish a path towards a peaceful democratic transition, and accountability for those responsible for the atrocities and contravention of international humanitarian law, including unspeakable acts of sexual violence and systematic use of starvation as a weapon of war. We should not let them get away with their corrupt schemes that pillage the Sudanese people's resources. We should not let them extinguish Sudan's transition to democracy. That means taking steps against those actors who supply or facilitate arms and military material to any side in Sudan. It means enforcing the existing United Nations arms embargo and pushing for its extension to cover all of Sudan so that neither side responsible for the violence is protected or immune. And it means working collectively through the United Nations and other multilateral institutions to support these efforts. And it means that the international community and the United Nations must pursue any and all means to deliver humanitarian assistance into the hands of the Sudanese people and ensure robust funding for the humanitarian response as the situation demands. Sierra Leone is taking up the presidency of the Security Council. It is imperative that we work together, on action plans to protect civilians, on support for coordinated peace negotiations, on initiatives to end the impasse on humanitarian access, and on accountability. Mr. President, I've said this before, but every life is precious. The Sudanese people want to live in peace and security and prosperity. And so I urge all those who fight for justice, for those who fight against atrocities, for those who fight against famine, let us come together with the Sudanese people, and after decades of war, let us end this conflict once and for all.